You're crouched by a river 12,000 years ago, and you've just gutted a fish with your bare hands. No cooler, no fridge, no jar of salt on the counter. In about 6 hours, in this heat, that fish will kill you faster than starving would. This is the actual problem your ancestors had to solve, every single day, everywhere on Earth, before anyone thought to write it down. Right now, you can walk to a shelf and grab iodized salt for less than $1 a pound. It preserves your food, seasons your food, and keeps your nervous system firing correctly, and you've probably never once had to think about where it comes from. For most of human history, that shelf didn't exist. So how did people survive? How did their hearts keep beating, their food stay edible, their bodies function? In a world where salt was rare, expensive, or in some places completely absent, here's where the story gets stranger than they just found salt mines. Because for an enormous stretch of human history, the answer wasn't mining salt at all. It was something closer to not needing it in the first place. Start with the body itself. The minimum amount of sodium a human needs just to stay alive is around 500 milligrams a day. That's a fraction of a teaspoon. Researchers studying hunter-gatherer diets have found that many pre-agricultural populations consumed under a gram of sodium daily, compared to the 3,400 milligrams the average American eats today. That's not a small gap. That's a 7-fold difference, and these populations weren't dying of it. So what was actually happening? Meat, blood, and muscle tissue are naturally salty. A hunter-gatherer eating mostly animal protein was already pulling sodium directly out of the kill, no seasoning required. Modern-day pastoralist groups like the Maasai in East Africa still derive much of their sodium from the meat, milk, and blood of their cattle, no added salt necessary, because the animal already carries what the body needs. Everyone assumes early humans were constantly salt-starved, scraping by on the edge of deficiency. The truth is the opposite. In some populations, they simply weren't eating a diet that created the need. Researchers studying the Yanomami people of the Amazon, an isolated population with essentially no dietary salt, recorded average blood pressure of 95/61, no hypertension, no rise in blood pressure with age, findings published through the landmark INTERSALT study in 1988. Their bodies weren't struggling without salt. They were running exactly as designed. So how did salt become necessary at all? Agriculture. That's the turn. Once humans shifted to farming grains and vegetables instead of hunting animals, they lost their built-in sodium source. Plants carry almost none of it. A population living on wheat and barley instead of meat and blood needed an external supply of salt just to keep functioning. And that's the moment salt stopped being a seasoning and became infrastructure. Archaeologists have found the fingerprints of that shift. In 2005, researchers led by Rowan Flad at the site of Zongba in inland China used X-ray and microscope analysis to confirm large-scale salt production dating back roughly 3,000 years, tied directly to the rise of early Chinese states. In coastal North Yorkshire, England, archaeologist Stephen Sherlock uncovered a saltern, a dedicated salt boiling site, radiocarbon dated to nearly 3,800 BC, the oldest confirmed saltworks in Britain. And in Provadia, Bulgaria, excavations at a site called Solnitsata, literally the salt place, point to salt production beginning as early as 5,400 BC, making it one of the oldest specialized industrial sites on Earth. So what changed once salt became something you had to produce, rather than something your food just contained? Everything. Salt stopped being biology and became economy. Roman soldiers were partly paid in salt rations. The root of the word salary traces back to exactly this. Chinese dynasties, starting with the Shang around 1600 BC, took direct control of salt production, taxing it as a state monopoly for centuries. Whoever controlled the salt controlled the food supply, because salt wasn't just flavor anymore. It was the only thing standing between a harvest and rot. Here's the twist most people miss. It's easy to assume that once agriculture created the need for salt, everyone everywhere started mining and trading it aggressively. Some societies didn't need to, because they'd simply replaced blood and meat with another concentrated source. Coastal populations used seawater directly. Interior populations without mines relied on ash from certain burnt plants, which concentrated mineral salts, or sought out mineral licks the way animals do. The body doesn't care where sodium comes from. It only cares that it arrives. So what was salt actually solving underneath all of this? Not flavor. Death. Before refrigeration existed, meat and fish rotted within hours, especially in warm climates. Salt draws water out of bacteria through osmosis, stopping decay in its tracks, which is why coastal salt sites across the world, from the Yukon salterns used by the Maya as early as 1000 BC to the briquetage pits of Neolithic Romania, dated to the 6th millennium BC, cluster around exactly one purpose: keeping a kill edible long enough to survive on it. That's the real answer, buried under the obvious one. Ancient humans didn't survive without salt by being tougher than you. They survived because their diet was already the source, right up until agriculture pulled the floor out from under them, and then salt stopped being optional and became the thing entire civilizations were built to control. Picture that riverbank again. The fish in your hands, the 6-hour clock already running. You don't reach for a jar. You reach for meat, for blood, for a body that was never missing what it needed in the first place. And only later, when the diet changed, did the search for salt become one of the oldest wars in human history. We didn't fight to add something new to our lives. We fought to get back what farming had quietly taken away.